The other early target for expansion in this period is Oregon. Now, the United States, Great Britain, and Russia all claimed at least part of Oregon. In 1818, Russia gave up its claim to Oregon, and Great Britain and the United States adopted a system of joint occupation. This is a weird system where they both had official control, and American citizens obeyed the American authority, and the British citizens obeyed the British authority. Now, this worked out because there really wasn't anybody there, or any white people there anyway. And so for 20 years, this wasn't that big a deal, simply because of a small population. These were mostly fur traders who would work with the Native Americans and then ship their furs back to the east or to Europe or wherever. But in the 20s and 30s, the 1820s and 1830s, American Christian missionaries will get it in their heads that they need to go to Oregon and they need to convert the Native Americans, save them from their pagan ways, so they can find salvation and go to heaven. And we have a really large migration of missionaries heading into Oregon. Of course, what really happens is they give the Native Americans in the region measles, not on purpose, of course. They just carry this with them, and pretty much wipe the Native Americans out of the area. But of course, in their minds, this is okay because they've preached to them and introduced them to Jesus. So even though they die very quickly, they're going to get to go to heaven, at least in the minds of the missionaries. But as the population in Oregon grows, the pressure to annex Oregon grows as well because there's more and more Americans there. Families are moving to the West Coast in the 1840s and 1850s. People have figured out that there's good farmland there, and of course in 1849 they're going to figure out that California is full of gold. Many of these were prosperous. Many families that were doing very well in the East decided to move to the West. They travel as families, or they met higher on with a family until the gold rush anyway. So if you wanted to go alone, you probably didn't really go alone. You probably hired on to some other family as a hired hand and traveled with them. It was a farming region originally. Of course, it also had mining and lumber. The farming parts tended to be populated by families, whereas the mining and lumber parts tended to be populated by men only. Wagon trains would leave from Independence, Missouri, and St. Joseph's, Missouri, and Council Bluffs, Iowa. You would typically hire a guide. There were people who all they did was go back and forth between really Missouri and the Pacific. And you would bring your own livestock. It was a 2,000-mile trek. This is called the Oregon Trail. And you can see it there coming out of Iowa and Missouri. You can see the map there. Some would go north to Oregon, but others would drop down and go to Northern California, San Francisco, that area. The southern route is called the Santa Fe Trail. The northern route is called the Oregon Trail. It took 6 months. You had to leave in May because you needed to get across the Rocky Mountains by November, or else they would get snowed over and you couldn't get through. It was a difficult and dangerous journey. Lots of people died. Snow in the Rockies, disease along the way. You walked. Today we see people in the wagons, the Canesta wagons that you see there. But you didn't ride in those. Those were for your stuff. You typically walked. If you were young or sick or particularly old or pregnant or something, you might get to ride in the wagon. But really you walked. Native Americans weren't really an issue. They were more likely to help you through trade or just friendliness than they were to attack you. Fewer than 1 in 1,000 people who traveled the Oregon Trail died from a Native American attack. So that idea that you were constantly in danger from being killed by natives, that's just movie stuff. That's just to make it more exciting. Wasn't true at all.